This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Super Crow stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show from the Super Crowd. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. I want to welcome all of you today. We've got just a great show for you today, but I want to just take a moment to welcome all of our new viewers. You know, every week we get our audience is growing. We see new people every week. I want to thank you for being here. Invite you to stick around and watch the entire episode so that you can see kind of what we're doing here. And I hope you'll be inspired no matter what you're doing in life, but we've got lots of great content for you. We come back regularly with inspiring change makers to help you figure out how you can do more good in the world. So we welcome you to the team. I've got today really one of the world's most expert people in the world of social entrepreneurship. Brigit Helms is the executive director of Miller Center at Santa Clara University, and she is a big deal, and we are so fortunate to have her with us today. Brigit, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that lovely introduction.
Well, you are truly one of the world's great experts on social entrepreneurship and its ability to make a difference around the world. And I think we're seeing just this growing evidence that it has power, you know, that entrepreneurship, the social entrepreneurship has power that charity alone doesn't, to change lives and make a difference in the world. Tell us a little bit about how Miller Center is doing this work.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for having me on. This is really a pleasure to share the story of social entrepreneurship and Miller Center as well. Let me just start a little bit with social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship for us means to apply business principles and leverage market forces to end poverty in the world. What it means is that the purpose of a business is purpose. In other words, the primary reason for having your business is to solve a social or environmental problem that you see around you in your community. And that is really what differentiates it, as you said, from charity alone. But it's neither is it, you know, straight business either, because in the way we normally think about it. But to be honest with you, Devin, one of my personal dreams is that all entrepreneurship can be considered social entrepreneurship, and that we don't even have to no longer, you know, use that qualifier. Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship has been around for a very long time. In fact, the founders back in 1997, sort of three guys and a gal in the basement of one of the University of Santa Clara University's buildings here, dreaming up this idea of how to leverage the entrepreneurship and innovation of Silicon Valley, where we are located, with the values of Santa Clara as a Jesuit university in Silicon Valley. So how can we solve global problems that we're seeing around the world? And this was super prescient because it was before we ever thought of social entrepreneurship or impact investing or anything like that. If you fast forward to 2003, we introduced our first accelerator, Social Enterprise Accelerator, again, that predated the well-known Silicon Valley accelerators like Y Combinator, for instance, by a few years. So again, we had these founders, not me, but the founders of the center who really saw the potential. When you fast forward, at this stage of the game, Miller Center is really the foremost social enterprise accelerator in the world, especially one that's attached to a university like Santa Clara. We've accelerated more than 1,500 global entrepreneurs in 100 countries around the world. We have amassed a network of 500 executive mentors. These are people primarily from here, Silicon Valley, who have been successful in their own businesses and who want to give back. They want to share their skills. And they're working with these global entrepreneurs who are ranging everywhere from Kenya to Mexico to Indonesia to Baltimore, and who are really making a huge, huge difference in the world. I can tell you a little bit about the kinds of companies that we work with. We tend to focus on two main themes. One is women's economic power, and the other is climate resilience. Now, why did we choose these themes? These themes that we have learned over the past couple of decades are the ones that are the most effective in ending poverty with entrepreneurship. So when your goal is to end poverty and your tool, if you will, is entrepreneurship, these are the two areas where we see make the biggest difference. When we talk about women's economic power, we are certainly talking about women as founders, for sure. Women in the US and abroad tend to be unfortunately overlooked when it comes to access to capital, and we aim to fix that. 75% of the entrepreneurs going through our programs over the last 2 years have been women led. And we also focus on companies that, for instance, have women as customers for goods and services that they need in order to improve their lives. Women in the supply chain, for instance, women artisans around the world who are, struggling to make a living. I can tell you a story about an amazing company called Someone Somewhere. They're based in Mexico. They source traditional artisan work from the poorest areas of Mexico, primarily from women, and they turn those into really amazing products, t-shirts, bags, and other things that are attractive to the markets in Mexico City and also in the US and abroad. And so a couple of years ago, Someone Somewhere signed a contract with Delta Airlines to provide all of those, amenity packs for the first and business class passengers for all the flights over 6 hours for 5 years. And that became this kind of rocket ship scaler for that company that's working with thousands of artisans. And these artisans, by the way, triple their income relative to what they were doing before. When they become part of the Someone Somewhere network. So that's an example of how to leverage entrepreneurship to improve women's economic power.
That really is powerful, powerful stuff. You have been at Miller Center now for what, about 8 years? Tell us about your tenure.
Okay, yeah. So I've actually only been here for 4.5 years. I arrived in the middle of the raging pandemic in July of 2020. And we were sort of at a crossroads, looking at the impact of the center had been very, very strong. One of the great things about coming to Miller Center was that this was an organization that didn't need sort of a turnaround. Many of my previous jobs had been sort of dumpster fires waiting to be put out, but this was not that case. And it was a very strong program, but kind of just needed to focus a bit more. Like what is the highest and best use of the assets and resources that we have available in order to optimize our ability to end poverty? And so we went through a whole strategy process there. We had our 2025 strategy had 3 sort of top line key performance indicators. The first one was the number of lives improved within 3 years of engaging with us. So how many lives were improved by the entrepreneurs in our network within 3 years, and then accumulating that number up. And I got to tell you, our goal was to double from 75 million to 150 million by 2025. And last year we already passed 180 million. So this is a tiny little organization that is having a huge global impact. The second KPI, or key performance indicator, was the average amount of capital raised per entrepreneur. And why do we care about that? We care about that because the capital raised is sort of a proxy indicator for scalability, right? In theory, the more money you're raising, the more impact you're able to have. And so once again, our goal was to double from an average of 500,000 within 3 years of engaging with us. That was our baseline in 2020 to 1 million. And this last year, we passed 2.1 million. So very exciting to be bursting through all of these KPIs. The third one, I've got to tell you, has to do with the university. It has to do with Santa Clara students. When I arrived at Miller Center, we had a very powerful, and we still have, very powerful fellowship program for Santa Clara students to get hands-on immersive learning opportunities that are totally unique to Santa Clara, by the way, because of our enterprise network. But that program was very deep and transformational, only reaching 15 students a year. So I came in here and I thought, oh, this is an opportunity to really kind of weave social entrepreneurship into the DNA of Santa Clara University and to engage many, many more students, maybe not all in such a deep way, but across the board. And I'm really proud to say that last year we were able to serve more than 800 students, both directly through internships and other opportunities, as well as indirectly through faculty here at the university. So we have sort of sort of achieved the goals of the 2025 strategy. And now we're about to launch our 2030 strategy.
That really is amazing. Give us just a hint at what the 2030 strategy might be, and just so we get a little bit of a forward look. But then also, if you would take just a minute and tell us how you hope people in our viewing audience will engage with you. What are you hoping that they will do with and for and to Miller Center?
Awesome. Thank you for that question. So as a hint, the way forward, I think what we're looking to do is, now that we've been around for all these years, we have a critical mass of hundreds of what we call active entrepreneurs in our community. And we want to move from, let's say, more of a program execution, transactional relationship with all of those entrepreneurs to more of a community building role. Devin, everywhere around the world, people, and especially young people, are clamoring for change. They're clamoring for community. They're tired of being left behind. They're tired of being sort of excluded from the economic system. And the entrepreneurs in our network are providing an antidote to that. And so helping them, and what they're clamoring for as well, is being in community and learning more from each other. So we want to move more towards being a platform for them to connect with each other, instead of us having to be sort of hub and spoke individually with each and every one. And I can see so many ways that the viewing audience and the viewers can engage with Miller Center. First and foremost, we have our mentor program. The mentors in our network are phenomenal. Many of them have been with us for 5, 10, 15 plus years. They really enjoy working with these global entrepreneurs and sharing their knowledge and wisdom. And they also enjoy each other. So it's a really cool kind of community in and of itself. So there's that. We also have a venture philanthropy fund where we support directly with funding select number of the most promising and scalable among our entrepreneur community. And this is a nascent fund. We've just started to get going with it. And so far, with the, I think, 12 transactions that we've completed so far, we've managed to leverage $10 for every one we've invested. So we're catalyzing all kinds of capital into these very unique opportunities. So I think, as if you're thinking about your philanthropy and you want to do something that has a longer term impact and that can be kind of cycled through several times, and that the impact continues long after the philanthropy has been spent, that's I think social entrepreneurship could be a really interesting opportunity for you. I think those are the main opportunities, I believe.
That's great. That's great. Well, Brigit, we got to take a quick break, but folks, I'm here today with with Brigit Helms. She is the executive director of Miller Center at Santa Clara University and is one of the world's leading authorities on social impact and social entrepreneurship. We've been just so delighted to have this conversation with her. When we come back, we're going to talk to Brigit about her superpower. You don't want to miss this. Stick around.
Download a free copy of How to Make Money with Impact Crowdfunding. The book Sarah Hanks describes as
a fantastic overview, not just of crowdfunding investing, but of investing in general.
Andrew Savickas raved,
"This book offers unparalleled insights for anyone looking to make a difference."
Scan the QR code to get your copy.
Supercrowd LA is the must-attend conference for impact investors, social entrepreneurs, and community builders. Learn from experts who've raised millions, including Jason Fishman of DNA, Sarah Hardwick of The Crowd, and Doug Wilmore of WorldTree. Plus, a live pitch with top investment opportunities. Early bird pricing ends soon.
Struggling to raise capital for your business? Unlock the power of the crowd with AI. My free guide, Crowdfunding Made Simple, walks you through every step to success. Get funded smarter, faster. Scan the QR code now for your free download.
Welcome back. I'm so honored, so excited to have with us today the executive director of Miller Center, Brigit Helms. And Brigit is just an extraordinary human being and really one of the world's leading authorities and experts on social entrepreneurship. But we're going to shift gears now to talk to her about her superpower. So stick around. You don't want to miss this. Brigit, you really are a big deal. And we are so honored that you would take the time to be on the show. This conversation is helpful to us. As you think about the extraordinary impact you've had in your career, what do you see as your superpower?
You know, Devin, this is such an interesting question. And, you know, I think that if I were to choose one, I think it's actually a hard one to answer for me, but I would say authenticity. I think that what you see is pretty much what you get with me. And I have understood the power of being able to bring your whole self and your true self into every experience you have, including in the workplace. And so the different organizations that I've led, I've really made an extra effort to create an environment where people can feel free to really be themselves, to have disagreements, to bring different perspectives. I'm a big believer in understanding and celebrating cognitive diversity alongside all the other forms of diversity, and to help people to find their voice and to raise their voice, even if I'm the only one or you're the only one in the meeting or in the group that has a different opinion, to feel comfortable to say, like, well, wait a minute, what about this thing or that thing? For me, that has really produced dividends in terms of building great teams and enabling people to really optimize their impact in the world.
I think that is a wonderful superpower, and it's so unusual. I think a lot of us struggle just to kind of feel like we know who we are and we're still, working at defining ourselves. And so I'm a little jealous that you've got that superpower. Tell me, though, if you can think of an example of a time when you really sort of leaned into your authentic nature and used that authenticity in a way that made a difference for you or for someone else.
Well, let's see here. I guess I can speak to my experience here at Miller Center. I think when I first got here, there had been a bit of a vacuum in leadership, and we needed to pull together a strategy process. And unlike every other strategy process that I've ever run, you couldn't get everybody into the room and start using creative problem solving techniques and design thinking and have the stickies all over the walls and everybody, participating kind of physically together because COVID. So I had to, say, okay, how can I do my thing, which is this very personal, individual, like, people getting together and hanging out together and being able to say what they want to say and, bring their ideas to the fore without being in a room together. And so what I realized is that I was going to have to break everything up into much smaller chunks and pieces and have each step of the process build on the last one and to bring as many voices around the table as possible over Zoom. And it was very, very challenging. But at the end of the day, I think we had an amazing product because we were able to tap into more than 100 people around the world. So we were able to incorporate the voice and the perspectives of people who probably never would have been in the room if we had stuck to my traditional way of conducting the strategy process. So I guess part of that is part of being your authentic self and leaning into that is also recognizing when you have to change, when you have to pivot, when you're wrong, and have to do something completely differently than you originally thought. And that's it. That's just one example that I have.
That really is great. Now, you have already kind of hinted a few times at some of the ways you coach people and utilize authenticity in groups. But I wonder if you would just give us a little bit of guidance, a few tips on how we can be more authentic and lean into our own unique ability to contribute.
Okay, that's a really cool question. So there are a couple of tools that I use that I feel are very effective, and I keep revisiting them. These are not new tools, but they're tried and true. One of them is Patrick Lencioni, Five Dysfunctions of a Team. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but for those of you, the viewers who have heard of it, it's a very powerful, very simple model about how to build great teams. And it has to do with these, what he calls them five dysfunctions, but I tend to frame them as positives because I'm an eternal optimist. So at the base, if you think about a pyramid, at the base of the pyramid, you have trust. And building trust is more important now than ever. And what we're talking about here is vulnerability-based trust. Being able to say, I don't know, I made a mistake, I need help. This is not easy for a lot of leaders, right? To really be able to have those kinds of conversations and to get to know people on a very personal level. Once you have the trust, then you can have conflict, conflicting ideas. Because if you don't have the trust and you're sitting in a meeting and everybody's going this way, but you believe this thing, you don't say anything because, I'm just going to go under the radar. I don't want to say anything because I don't have the trust. I don't want to get my head bitten off. And then what that leads to is a lack of commitment, which is the third level. So I'm not going to commit to whatever the decision is if I didn't feel like I was heard. Whereas if you're heard, then you can do that. And then you can hold each other accountable, which is the fourth piece, and then lead to the results. It's super simple, but very effective if you pay attention to all those steps. So that's one tool. The other one that I really love, and I'm actually certified in, is the HBDI, the Herman Whole Brain model. And what I like about that is it helps you to understand different thinking styles and understand that, like, if just because I don't really think the same way that you do doesn't mean that you're wrong or you have the wrong kind of approach. You just have to appreciate that everybody's coming at a problem from a different perspective. And that's using that, if you were here in my offices, you'd see every single person has their little Herman brain model on their name tags in the entire place, so that we understand who's who in the zoo and how we all relate to each other.
Oh, that's great. Now, as we wrap up, Brigit, I wonder if you take a minute and tell people how they can connect with you and learn more about Miller Center.
Absolutely. Well, you have the website is here. millersocent.org, which is short for millersocialenterprise.org. Please, feel free to come to visit the site. It's a relatively new site actually, and it has different pathways if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a potential mentor, an investor, a donor, however you want to, a student, however you want to engage with the center. We really invite all of you to come and check it out.
Well, Brigit, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We love the work that you're doing and want to see you succeed in every possible way.
Thank you, Devin. It's a pleasure to be here.
All righty. Now let's do some good.